thanks for staying with us. Now, it's a community in the Central Tongu constituency of the Volta region which is dealing with a worrying reality. Their only source of water, it's a dirty pool, and it's laced with algae and leeches. The story of Mafi Tove was the highlight of the first episode in the JoyNews series dubbed Dear Addo, which tracks government's promises and the situation on the ground. The people say the Addo government promised to ensure safe water in every community within its first 2 years in office, but their situation is yet to change. Jojo Kobina was there and now reports.
In the first 2 years of an MPP administration, under this Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication program, where every constituency will get $1 million every for rural and deprived communities, under this program, there should be no village or community in Ghana after the first 2 years that would have a water problem or a toilet problem. There should be no village or community. Once we implement this, the first 2 years, we will make sure you will not have a water problem or a toilet problem.
A promise from Dr. Mahmoud Baumia when the New Patriotic Party launched this manifesto in 2016 at the La Trade Fair Center in Accra. It has been over 2 years since this assuring statement was made, and it still rings in the minds of the people.
Times are wasting and times are wasting and
Mafi Tove is a farming community of 600 people in the Central Tongu constituency of the Volta region. Residents do not enjoy basic access to potable water. Running water would be a luxury they can only afford to dream, and hope becomes a reality. Women and girls journey to the main source of water in the community, a pond. The pond is nestled in between trees. It is deep brown and dirty, with remnants of fallen leaves and other black substances floating on the surface. Feet wade in water. In a matter of seconds, receptacles are filled up. A herd of cattle make their way to drink the same source of water. The water settles in a white bucket, and finally, its true color emerges. The water is used for washing, cooking, and drinking. Perfect Amade, a senior high school student, plans of abandoning her village in the future, mainly because of the poor quality of water. After getting used to potable water from secondary school, using the brownish liquid is difficult.
We are not having potable water, so that's what I don't like about the village. The water is not good for our health, and when we are using it, because of that, when we come back from school, we can't wear white clothes.
She won't be the first person to abandon the community. Many others have fled to urban areas for supposed better life.
This village consists of a population of about 1,500, but as I'm speaking now, we can only get about 500 to 600 people living in the community because of the nature of this thing. Most youth have fled the town to other places for greener pastures.
Perfect is conscious about the promise to ensure every community and village gets water 2 years of the MPP administration.
Our Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, please, you have seen the water we are taking here. As a normal human being, this water is not good for our health. So you need to do something about it for us.
I think they can give this water to even their dogs to drink because of the nature of the water. If they come, we feed them water, they don't drink it. They tell us it's okay. They will leave. Upon several efforts to have this pipe brought to this village, all these attempts proved futile.
Dukrola Nana Akufo-Addo, nye himle mi odukom nyebi, eshinwe, eshimele mi egbo, enabi mi la shifukpe, suku, mala duko hamene mi view hala du difayi, enabi ne de view yifukaka ko ova chedo. Wanye fukpe ni yano, mi ojila mi yano fukpe, weka de view avase. Yeta toko didi mi azobe, mali amowo, ka mi ava ikoshi. Enye tetere jinemi. Tami la kuku demna Dukrola Nana Akufo-Addo benena le shinya nava jemi odukom madimi la chogbema.
They are not the only community with a terrible water situation. In fact, the Assemblyman for Mafi Tove electoral area has identified about 14 communities lacking potable water. The second out of the 14 communities is Mafi Tove Chikope. Greenish, slimy algae bloom on the surface of the water. The impact of algae on drinking water is complex, as some form of algae have the ability to affect water quality for humans and animal consumption, producing toxins that can have unpleasant and even serious health effects. After laboring to fetch and carry water over long distances, residents find a leech in the water. Sadness is etched in their faces. They have had to endure leeches for so many years. The rainy season will help them harvest some water, but when the dry season emerges, they'll go back to their default drinking water or walk some kilometers for this basic commodity.
As we are suffering from this particular water, like germs and others, we went there and bought water from Toveglim as a new pipe water. Sometimes we use the dirty one to wash our things because expenses for buying waters are very high.
Le miaƒe eshikuku le etama, avuto no etama. Ta ne gele me na menya la Addo. Kena do la Addo le menya nyago. La va for me. Kena amela kpe na lo nto va kpe ha. Kena efue. Pra si sesen la ela tovu. Ya. Ga kena nyebe me kwasi fue. Echo donti, esi. Etroleji la elaga ko ela torokwe abiale no o khacha gakbon neni mi won mata mi lo kukudam na bena akpele mi ntinge.
During their campaigning, they promised the whole Ghana that each community will get access to a good drinking water. But In their office of 2 years now, in our area, we haven't experienced anything in that form. If really their campaigning messages are working, then they should come to our aid for us to get a potable water.
The water makes them sick. The in charge of Addo Chips compound, Gladys Womeno, says apart from malaria and respiratory tract infections, diarrhea is the third most common disease recorded in her facility.
They pass blood too. Some mucus mixed with blood. And there's some water too with blood. But
What does that mean?
that means they have infection, like bacterial infection. When they come with mucus too, we give them metronidazole, ORS. So when they come with the diarrhea, we give them zinc tab and the ORS. Now we advise them on personal hygiene.
How can this be solved?
If we have potable water, that one can stop diarrhea.
The district chief executive of Central Tongu, Thomas Moore, says government will soon provide them potable water.
They will be getting potable water very soon. Those areas, we did our survey and realized underground water will not be good. Central Tongu is not like other districts or regions where you can drill a borehole and heat water. We have surface water, but don't have good underground water. It could either be salty or some mineral content. So we have, at the back of these assemblies, there's a big treatment plant there that was financed by an Austria facility. And then it was a 10-key project. So we extended water to Addo, which is one of the biggest communities on that line. So within that enclave, there are about 15 communities that will be connecting water to. I can tell you for sure we have 3 now, because my visit to these 3 communities, I saw them using boreholes, and the rest are under construction.
So 7 under construction?
Yeah, 3 are in use. So by next year, these communities you are mentioning now, I don't know if your grandmother is from any of them, but they will also start getting potable water.
Yes, sir. Debbie, a bay, Debbie, a bay, Nasu, Debbie, Pepper, the bay. Debbie, a bay, Debbie, a bay, Nasu, Debbie, Pepper, the bay.
The people are eagerly waiting for the day government will fulfill promises to give them potable water.
We heard that he will give every constituency $1 million for development works to be carried out in the constituencies. Up till now, we've not been hearing anything about that $1 million.
And so that's the first of our citizen-driven series dubbed Dear Nanado. I have the technical advisor of the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation, CONIWAS, Patrick Apoya, in the studio with me. As we were watching it, I was looking at you and I saw your reaction. How did you feel watching that, especially seeing the leeches sticking to the size of the bucket?
I will just describe this as very devastating. And for me, I've seen situations, I've seen very bad situations, cattle sharing water with people, but I think this particular case is very touching. And the thing that touched me most is when the man said, people who come to them to help them, when they offer them the water, they say, no, it's okay. But they expect that that's the water they are drinking. For me, that was very touching. But viewers who probably have not seen what the rural setting looks like may think that this is just an isolated case that maybe JoyNews spent energy trying to fish out and show. But I can assure people that this is a typical representation of the remaining 20% of rural people who do not have water in Ghana.
Right.
This may be...
So the problem is bigger than...
It's bigger than what we are seeing.
Right.
It's bigger than what we are seeing. Even in that area, even the chief executive mentioned over 6, 7, 8 communities who will be giving water soon. Right. And they are in the same situation. I can tell you that the remaining 20% of rural communities who don't have water, this is the typical case that people can look at. For me, I think the situation would need more and better strategies by the government and the local assemblies to do something urgent.
I see. Now, we're told that in 2017, government allocated 255 million to the Sanitation and Water Resources Ministry. Yeah. In 2018, it came down to 183 million and then went up in by 246 million in 2019. Yeah. Do you think that these figures indicate government's commitment to addressing issues like this?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, looking at the figures, I wouldn't say so at all. If you know what it takes to provide water, even the 246 million, if you put everything to even boreholes, which is the cheapest facility that you can provide, you wouldn't get more than 1,000 boreholes, or at most 2,000 boreholes. That's if you want to do it at a very cheap cost without mechanization. And that is just a drop in the ocean. But it will suffice you to know that more than half of that money is just for salaries. When they say 246 million, it is not for investments alone. Investments is just probably 20% of the total budget or 25% of the total budget. The salaries are in there, services are in there, and then, of course, investments are in there. And
so the larger chunk is just spent on emoluments
mostly. Yes, because if you look at what has been invested, it is not even up to a quarter of that amount.
I see.
In fact, to start with, not within what we target for investment, which is not up to a quarter, less than half of it will be leased in a given year.
Interesting. Now, you work within this space, the provision of safe water, and you work closely with the MMDAs.
Yeah.
What have you observed as far as the situation is concerned?
For me, they are tight-lipped, but they're very helpless. But they fear that maybe if they talk, they can get the wrath of government and they will lose their positions. I think government is its own enemy. On one hand, there's a very good intention to promote grassroots development through certain initiatives, such as the $1 million per constituency. But it is, and that is what the Vice President touted, that using that one, they will be able to provide water for every community within 2 years. But honestly, it is that same policy which is actually working against water provision in the communities. And that we thought the 1 million was additional money coming to the constituencies. It turns out that, no, it's actually not additional money. The common fund that was already there, they should assign a portion of it for as part of that 1 million. Special initiatives is implementing some things. They will say count it as part of initiatives. The development authorities that are also coming, anything they are doing, they will say count it as part of that 1 million. So formally, the assemblies that had up to, let's say, 40% of their common fund as discretionary that they could allocate. Because of that $1 million per constituency, that has now shrunk to less than 10% of what they receive that they can play with. So the DCEs who is talking right now, formally, would have attended to this community very briskly. But now, he doesn't have that leeway because all the funds have been allocated for specific purposes under the so-called $1 million per constituency and other policy initiatives, leaving them very tight. And they are helpless as they sit. And even the money won't even come. Sometimes third quarter in the year before they get their first quarter transfers. So basically, they're just paying debts, you know. And I think government needs to, on one hand, they show seriousness and they show commitment. For instance, bringing out water from the Works and Housing Ministry, sanitation out of local government ministry to come to have a separate ministry for water and sanitation, which shows some seriousness at the highest level. But when it comes to action, allocating financial resources, it will look as if a finance minister is in direct fight with the president regarding seeing water and sanitation as a priority. Because to be honest, what is allocated is the sole discretion of the finance ministry. They decide how they want to play with figures. And if they say, whatever you request, this is what you can give you, it's final. And the allocation doesn't doesn't suggest a minister who supports his president's views as to what he considers a priority. Can you imagine moving from over 240 million to 183, and over 255 million to 183, then either an act of something to recover the public criticism, it is raised up to 246, but still even below the 2017 figure. So you would think it's an increase over 2017, but if you the 2017 figure is still below that 2017 figure. So
I'm hearing you concerning your voice about, you know, lack of prioritization, if I may call it that.
Yeah.
Since this is a letter to Nana Addo, the president, what are your final words?
My final words
to
be
Nana Addo.
For government for him to actually put certain targets, give certain targets to the relevant ministries that this is what I want to see in place by this period. I think that is where he's being failed. If you say it and you back it up with what finance ministry is supposed to give and take it as one of the special, take education for instance. You can't say free education is not a priority for for the ministry and the government. So you see that despite the difficulties, they are moving. So if the sanitation and the finance sectors were also in line with the president's vision, I think we would have seen better results. He needs to do something more drastic.
All right.
To get results.
He needs to do something more drastic. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Apoya. And Mr. Apoya is with Koniwas. He joined me in the studio for a discussion there on the back of our citizen-driven series dubbed Dear Nana Addo, and it will air every Wednesday on Prime at 7:20. You're still watching JoyNews Prime with me, Araba Kunsi.